will not have the infrastructure in place to support the new housing that is going to be asked for us to be built from central government. We also have the Elizabeth line that was added that's attracting commuter families to the area, and we face more housing coming, but without the infrastructure of a new school to support the area. It is time to make sure that the secondary schools to support this demand are there and ready for our residents. It is time for the education system to come together to resolve this problem. In the same way that myself and the Honourable Member for Slough have put aside party political differences for the good of our communities to work together, so the education system needs to put aside artificial boundaries and work together. It needs leadership from ministers and the Department of Education to bring local authorities together, to support the proper analysis of data across local authority boundaries, and I urge the Minister to join me and the Honourable Member for Slough and the local community in helping to make a new secondary school for Burnham, South Buckinghamshire and Slough a reality. Thank you.
I call the Minister, Catherine McKenna. Minister.
Thank you, and I congratulate the Honourable Member for Beaconsfield on securing this important debate, and I know she has been a champion for children in South Buckinghamshire and for every child being able to secure a school place that enables them to achieve and thrive. And this government recognises how important it is that every child gets a great education at a good school in their area, and we work very closely with local authority colleagues to achieve this, including in Buckinghamshire. Local authorities, including Buckinghamshire, have a statutory duty to ensure that there are sufficient school places for children in their area. I appreciate the Honourable Lady has referenced that in her contribution. And so to support local authorities to deliver on that statutory duty, the Department provides capital funding through the Basic Need Grant for mainstream school places, and funding is based on local authorities' own pupil forecasts and school capacity data. They also receive high needs provision capital allocation to invest in places for children and young people with special educational needs or who require alternative provision. And I know the Honourable Lady has specifically mentioned that, and I will come to it shortly. The Department engages with local authorities on a regular basis to review their plans for creating additional primary places and pre-16 secondary school places, and to consider alternatives where necessary. And when local authorities are experiencing difficulties, the Department offers support and advice, including through the Pupil Place Planning Advisor. So I hope the Honourable Lady finds it reassuring that all of this support is in place. At local authority level, Buckinghamshire is forecast to have an increasing surplus of primary school places, especially in the year of entry reception and in Key Stage 1. There are, however, some areas of primary place pressure, including at Gerrards Cross and the Chalfonts in the south of the county. At secondary phase, Buckinghamshire is forecast to have a small, slightly declining surplus. However, in common with the primary phase, underlying the local authority-wide picture, there are variations in place pressure, and the academically selective element of secondary education in Buckinghamshire adds an additional element of complexity in place planning, as does the cross-border movement into schools in neighbouring local authorities, which I know the Honourable Lady and the Honourable Gentleman, the MP for Slough, my honourable friend, also referenced. Nearly £1.5 billion has been announced to support local authorities to create mainstream school places that will be needed over the current and the next 2 academic years, up to and including academic year September 2026. And the funding is not ring-fenced, subject to conditions set out in the published grant determination letter, nor is it time-bound, meaning local authorities are free to use this funding to best meet their local priorities. They can use it to fund places in new schools or through expansions of existing schools, and can work with any school in their local area, including academies and free schools.
On that point,
I'll happily give way.
I thank the Minister for giving way, and I wanted just to ascertain, in her and the Department's determination for a new school in Burnham on the boundary of Slough and South Bucks, will the fact that we have a hugely increasing population in Slough and South Bucks, as well as the high need for SEND provision, will those factors be factored in to ensure that the right decision is reached for a new school?
So the Honourable Gentleman raises some important points, and indeed these are all factors that Buckinghamshire Local Authority and Slough Local Authority, where relevant, will have to take into consideration when determining how to use their allocation. So Buckinghamshire Council has been allocated just below £11.3 million to support the provision of new mainstream school places that they feel they will need over the current and the next 2 academic years, up to including September 2026. And we've also announced, in reference to the comments from the Honourable Gentleman, £740 million in high needs capital for 25-26 to support children and young people with special educational needs and disabilities, or who require alternative provision. And we will confirm the specific local authority allocations later in the spring, but the important point is that this new funding can be used to adapt classrooms to make them more accessible for children with special educational needs. It can be used, I'll just finish this point, it can be used to create specialist facilities within mainstream schools that could deliver more intensive support to adapt it to meet pupils' needs, alongside continuing to provide places to support pupils in special schools with the most complex needs. I give way.
Madam Deputy, I thank the Minister for giving way. I wonder whether she'll commit to working with colleagues in the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government to review the impact that home-to-school transport rules have on the situation. In Hillingdon, there's around a 20% vacancy rate due to falling pupil numbers. All London boroughs contribute to Transport for London, therefore transport to school on London public transport is free. But if Buckinghamshire were wishing to take advantage of those vacancies, then it would be a general fund cost to council taxpayers to bring those children to schools in Hillingdon. Now, clearly, in the efficiency of providing these places, it may well be that looking at those cross-border transport issues, we could produce a beneficial outcome for my constituency neighbour and also for the schools that would thereby benefit from additional pupils.
The Honourable Gentleman raises an important point, and it is one that, as a department, we are very focused on, but indeed do need to work with local authorities in order to deliver on. The department's home-to-school travel policy, the aim is to make sure that no child is prevented from accessing education because of a lack of transport. Local authorities are required to arrange free travel for children of compulsory school age who attend their nearest school but can't walk there because of the distance, or because of a special educational need, a disability or a mobility problem, or because their route isn't safe. And there are additional rights to free travel to low-income households as well, to make sure they can exercise school choice. However, I recognise the challenge that the Honourable Gentleman raises, and this is one that we are part of the reason why, and indeed he jumped up as I was talking about the investment that we would like to see in mainstream provision to make it more suitable and to adapt it where necessary, to have much greater inclusion of children with special educational needs and disabilities so that they can be educated in their local area wherever possible with their peers, and indeed that will get better outcomes for those children, but also it will tackle some of the challenges that he quite rightly identifies in relation to the growing challenge of school transport. The Honourable Lady mentioned in particular a specific request for confirmation on a local special school application, and indeed she tempts me to get ahead of announcements that will be made in due course, and they are under consideration. And it's obviously important that where children do have highly complex needs, that we do have those specialist school places available in the right place for the children that need them. We are committed to ensuring that all schools do cooperate with their local authority on school admissions and place planning to help ensure that there are sufficient school places where they're needed. And schools and academy trusts are expected to work collaboratively and constructively with local authorities and other key partners on place planning. We've recently reinforced this expectation through the revised Making Significant Changes to an Academy guidance, and to further strengthen it, we're legislating to require all schools and local authorities to cooperate on admissions and place planning. This new duty will aim to foster much greater cooperation between schools and local authorities on these important areas, as well as providing a backstop for addressing serious failures where cooperation just isn't happening. We're also legislating to make changes to the legal framework for opening new schools. We'll end the legal presumption that new schools should be academies in favour of prioritising any local offer which meets the needs of children and families, allowing proposals for other types of schools to be put forward where a new school is needed, including proposals from local authorities themselves. And these changes better align local authorities' responsibility to secure sufficient school places with their ability to open new schools. So the government is absolutely focused on the quality of education, the experience that children are getting at school, rather than the name above the door. And all schools have an important role to play in driving high and rising standards so that we can achieve ensuring that every child can thrive at school. And indeed, this will support local authorities to be able to make the decisions that are right for the children in their area. Because we want all children to be able to attend a high-quality school of their parents' choice, wherever possible. In 2024, 98.5% of children in Buckinghamshire were offered a place at one of their parent or carers' top 3 preferred primary schools, and just over 9 out of 10, 91.1%, received an offer of their first preference. And at secondary phase, 91.2% of pupils in Buckinghamshire received an offer at one of their parent or carers' top 3 preferred secondary schools, with 3/4, 75.8%, receiving an offer at their first preference. So I want to thank my honourable colleague for bringing this matter forward today and for the contributions that we've had from other members in the debate this evening. It clearly is so important that a child is able to access a school place, ideally in their local community, that will enable them to achieve and to thrive. And I appreciate the case that the Honourable Lady is making, but it is clear that it is to Buckinghamshire Local Authority that the case must be made. And the government will continue to work with local authority colleagues. It is their statutory duty to ensure sufficient mainstream school places are available, and this includes providing funding through the Basic Need Grant. We'll provide continued support through our pupil place planning advisors, and we are introducing new legislation to require all schools and local authorities to cooperate on admissions and place planning so that every child in every local community can have a good local school.